Xavier Hawk Francis. And he was like my little haps fan.
Welcome to Still a Part of Us, a place where moms and dads share the story of their child who was stillborn or who died in infancy. I'm Winter.
And I'm Lee. We are grateful you joined us today. Please note that this is a story of loss and has triggers.
Thanks to our lost parents who are willing to be vulnerable and share their children with us.
If you're listening to this podcast, just know that on our YouTube channel there are pictures and videos that are related to the stories that are being shared.
Subscribe and share it with a friend that might need it, and tell them to subscribe. Why? Because people need to know that even though our babies are no longer with us, they're still a part of us.
But yeah, like, it was, nobody prepares you for CHEO. Nobody prepares you. They can tell you, oh, hey, you can talk to moms and they can be like, this is the rundown. But nobody truly prepares you for being in the NICU because every case is so different.
Yeah.
And Mimi was great to explain this to me. You're going to have some highs. You're going to have some lows. There's going to be a honeymoon period. There's going to be some good days. There's going to be some bad days. And there's going to be some days where it's a constant watch. And I was like, yeah, I'll just be at Ronald McDonald House. Give me a call, blah, blah, blah. No. When they say there's going to be nights where you're going to be constantly watching him, you're literally at that bedside.
Just watching.
Yeah. Just sitting by his bedside, watching him, making sure he's doing good, making sure that, you know, if anything happens, I'm right there. So if he passes, I'm not missing that.
Yeah.
It was so bad because only one parent could be by his side at night.
Oh,
one
at
parent,
night? Okay.
Yeah. During the day, there could be visitors, but only one parent at night could be by his side. And I remember there was some times where me and his father would switch off. And they had Ronald McDonald actually had a lounge for parents.
Oh, okay.
And in there you had a TV, kitchen, that kind of thing. There was other rooms for those who could not get into a room right away.
Gotcha.
If it was at the Ronald McDonald or at the hotel, that was right by the hospital. So there was constant, there's somebody always sleeping in a parent room. So, yeah, we were constantly doing this swap. Sometimes it was just me. I would run because he would disappear again. And so, he was really struggling with this. And I wish I could have been there to help him out more.
You were not in a place for that.
No, but it still sits with me. Like, I don't regret not being there, but it was like, oh, man, maybe there was something I could have done, but I know there wasn't.
Yeah.
So sometimes it was me all the time. And I would say by like the fourth day, that's when we got more news of what was going on. So the water on the brain was easy to deal with because we didn't know what was going on with his ventricles. We needed to get that water off the brain. To understand more what was going on underneath everything.
Right.
So they had him scheduled in for a shunt surgery.
Mm-hmm. And a shunt is just something they put in the head to essentially drain out excess fluid.
Yeah, so it'll go from his brain all the way into his stomach to pump into the stomach, so then that way he can urinate it out. So with that being said, we knew we had to do that. We didn't know how that was going to look.
Yeah.
So there was that. And then we ran into the worst hiccup ever. So most babies in NICU, severe complications will either have a left diaphragmatic hernia or a right diaphragmatic hernia. Really was not expecting that. And so A right diaphragmatic hernia is the most dangerous.
Uh-huh.
The left one is the better one, and he had a right diaphragmatic hernia. So everything was up in his lungs, like his lungs were being squished, everything like that.
Yep.
So they had to do surgery on that first and foremost. So he was not allowed to eat at all until he had that surgery because his intestines and everything were up in his chest.
Yeah, that was going to cause some issues for sure.
So
what day was that when he got that surgery?
So that would have been day 4. So he was just, yeah. So
4 days old. Oh my gosh.
Yeah. So he had that surgery on the 4th day, which then was like, okay, one surgery dealt with. They turned in and they came to me and they said, hey, we need to do a X-ray now. And I was like, you can't see intestines really on X-ray. So like, what's going on? They said he may have an extra rib or may have less ribs. And I was like, huh? Like the plate has gone from being like a hamburger size to now like a 3-tiered cake of all these complications.
Yeah, seriously.
That are just adding up. And so I was like, okay, let's do what we need to. I said, how long is that going to take? Yeah, so they did a portable x-ray, which was good. So we didn't have to move him any more than what we had to. And it was in fact, he had 11 ribs on one side and 9 ribs on the other side.
Really?
Yeah. 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 So he was hiding all these secrets.
I know, seriously. I'm like, with this extra finger, this is okay.
Yes.
Crazy.
So we had to wait for his hernia surgery to heal. And it was only like this big. Now imagine that on an adult, you're gonna have it like this big.
Mm-hmm.
So yeah, so it was quite a shocker to see like your kid's 4 days old and had surgery.
That would be no, it feels not right.
No, it doesn't. And so that day was hard. I will tell you that much. They asked us every question possible. What happens if he starts to flatline? What happens, what happens in the worst case scenario?
Yeah.
And I turned around and I said, I will be sitting in the Ronald McDonald lounge area right outside his floor, actually right outside the NICU doors where he was at. And so I said, I'll be there if anything happens. I want to hold my son before he dies. And they said, that's fine. So we were, don't remember her name, but we had another sweet lady that day, really nice, sweet older lady as a nurse. And she goes, I will keep you updated as much as possible.
That's awesome.
And so really and honestly, I was in nerves. Like I was sitting at the edge of my seat every hour, every minute, because I didn't know what is going to happen. Is he going to pass away? Am I going to have time to hold him? What's going to happen? And those, nobody can tell you that nobody can prepare you for those thoughts.
Yeah.
That's just your brain going into survival mode, into fight mode. And what do we do for our kids?
Yeah. What if, all these things. Yeah.
And so that was something that was in my brain constantly. Am I going to be able to hold him? Is he going to be okay? What is his surgery going to look like? What are we expecting? What is the next hurdle? Because there's always a hurdle. You don't get one surgery done with somebody this complicated.
Yeah. Yeah.
So we knew that there was either going to be multiple surgeries or he was just not going to make it. So we had both plates and we were juggling them.
Yeah.
And
both are not great. Both are not great.
No, exactly. Both are not great, but we do make the most out of it.
Yeah.
We have to be It's basically the best way I was told by the charge nurse on the floor. And it sounds horrible, but she's like, you just need to put your feelings away while you're present with your child and focus on them and their needs and their feelings and be your child's advocate.
Yes.
Don't let the doctor say, oh, well, he needs this surgery. You know, be there to tell you, ask questions. Like
Yes.
when
yes,
they said,
yes.
when they say he needs this surgery, that diaphragmatic surgery, I said, okay, what's the complications of this?
Right.
I'm like, what are the complications as to what's the odds of him coming off this table? Is this going to improve his life or not? And, you know, they just looked at me and they said, as to the life, I can't say this is going to improve his life or not, but he needs this surgery. This is not like, oh, well, we can do this. We're going to do this. It's an elective surgery. No, he needs this
it.
to be
Yep.
to be able to eat. I said, okay, great. Now, what are the odds of my kid making it off? He goes, they weren't sugarcoating it. He's like, he's 4 days old. I typically don't like to do these surgeries until they're at least 7 days old.
Whoa.
And he's like, but we need to get him going.
Yeah.
Because if not, he's just gonna
struggle even more.
Yeah. So I said, okay, so what are the odds of this? And he goes 50-50.
Mm.
And you don't want to hear that coming out of a doctor's mouth.
Yeah.
50-50. You want to hear something like 80% chance or something. And for a doctor to look at you and say 50-50, and your heart just sinks. And you're like, okay, he needs a surgery. It's not an elective. And you have a split second. You don't have, can you give me 5 days? Can you give me an hour? You need to make a decision in the next 3 minutes, or we're taking him and doing it. And it wasn't even a question. Like when he said, before he even got the words out of, what do you want to do? I said, get him into the operating room now. Get him in there, get my son as much time as I can get with him. And so he was good. The nurse, his nurse was really good. Every 15 minutes, she was calling the OR, what's going on?
Okay.
You know, and just to give us that peace of mind. And she was always checking with us. If she had gotten if she got the same news, oh, everything's going fine, obviously she's not going to run out every 15 minutes. It's all the same. So we were really on edge. We did get a 4-hour surgery. And in that time period, got one thing where he was like, we got the news that he kind of started to desat, which means all of his vitals start to go down, and he was looking like he was going into cardiac arrest. So when she came in and said that, I was like, okay, where is this? Where am I going?
Yeah.
Because that's all I can think. And she goes, I'm just waiting on a call. And she goes, as soon as I get that call, I will let you know. And she came out 15 minutes later, and she goes, your son, it likes to pull tricks. And I said, oh, and she's like, as soon as they said that, I came back in, was just about to sit down, like just getting everything ready, thinking you were going to the operating room. And she's like, I just sat down and he's fine now.
He's fine.
I'm like, he's just like when he was inside me. Like he has that, hey, okay, I'm going to pull my crap because you're not paying attention to me kind of thing.
Oh, that stinker.
Right? And that was the best personality he had. Like, hello, I'm here. Pay attention to me. I'm a human being. That was his personality.
Yeah.
And we saw that by day 5, day 6. I had turned around and said on his board, if you're not coming here to be in a positive mindset, please take a minute, because this is a positive area for my son. And then we met like a really nasty NICU nurse. And I forgot to mention this, but I met her before our surgery date, and she turned around and said, you're just harming your kid. Why don't you just give up now? You don't understand what you're expecting. So we saw her again on day 5, day 6. And they were doing their morning rounds, and she comes in, and I'm spending time with my son before all the other doctors get there. She's the first one, and she comes right up to his NICU right in front of him and says to me, "Is this what you expected? Do you like your son being in pain?"
Wow. I mean, come on. Come on. Wow.
Right? So for me, it was like, what did you just say? Like, I
Yeah,
even looked at
seriously.
her. I looked at her and I said, "Sorry, I didn't hear you." And I turned around and she said it again. And she goes, "We can just take the breathing tube out and he'll be fine. He'll pass peacefully." And I'm like, "No, you need to leave. You need to get a different nurse here because I'm not allowing you to be around. I don't care if you're the on-call physician. You need to have somebody else because I'm not dealing with this with my son."
Yeah.
And as that happened, everybody started walking in, all the specialists, and they always did the same thing. "Hey, Mr. Xavier, how are you today? Still kicking, still fighting." Um, you know, by this point, Dr. Nazal, his neurosurgeon's coming up and like pretending to fist bump him and, just keeping the spirits alive. And so, and I guess they had heard because they were like, "Yeah, we're going to continue without you. We've been with Xavier since day one, and I love how Mom is trying to keep this a positive environment." So they had asked her to leave,
Oh, good. Because that is super inappropriate. Yeah.
right? So, um, so they carried on. And they said, "Well, we'll be back," and they came back with another physician, which was fantastic.
Mm-hmm.
And she got the lowdown. It was another female, but they got the lowdown of what this other physician had said. And she turned around, she just walked over to Xavier and she's like, "It's not nice. You're still kicking. You're still taking names." He goes, "We need to keep fighting, buddy?" And I was just like, "Well, great. I have the best team for my son."
Yeah.
And that's when they said, "Okay, now we need to start looking for, what we're going to do for his brain."
Okay.
Because he was having trouble. He was in constant pain because of the pressure in his
Yes.
brain.
With having all that water, yeah, that could cause a lot of
Yeah,
pain.
yeah. So I turned around and I said, "Okay, Dr. Nazal, what are we doing?" And he goes, "I'm not doing anything right now." He goes, "I'm going to keep him comfortable." He goes, "And we're going to give you as much time." So I've only held him in between this whole time once.
You're right. Okay.
Once. And he goes, "Now I want you to sit down. We're getting the respiratory nurse in," because he was still on the breathing tube. And he goes, "You're going to sit here. You're going to hold your son. You're going to pump. We're going to get you to express as much milk for him and spend that one-on-one quality time with him and
Good.
just be part of Mom and be a mom and teach you how to take care of your son,
Yeah.
even though he's here." And I was like, wow. And even the physician agreed. And the physician's like, "We're not going to talk about this until we're going to finish our consultation with you, with Xavier, once he's on you. Because we want him to be feeling a part and not, oh, I'm in a bed, they're talking
They're
about
talking
me."
about me. Yeah.
So that's what they did. They had the respiratory nurse come in, and they come on me. And nowadays it's called the Haka, but they had something similar like that. And so the side he was laying on, they put that on before, and
Mm-hmm.
they put like a pillow so I could hold him.
Yeah.
So I had a pillow underneath my arm, and then I had the nursing pillow on top of
Yep.
that. And this pillow that they have is kind of interesting because it kind of has like that they put like almost like a wall on it to help moms, so they don't have to worry about where my hand placement
Oh,
is.
gotcha.
So like I can still hold him with my other hand, but it's kind of like all these pillows and everything that he needs. So the tube is not being pinched.
Oh, okay.
So he can still breathe properly. And so I was very thankful for that. Very fortunate. I got to help hold him. that was the best day. I expressed a
Good.
lot of milk that day. And I had a freezer at this point. Like he had one section of a freezer
I am
because
sure.
I was pumping I want to say every 2 hours. Like I was on the ball, like just making sure he had so much milk. And so everything was going good, really good. They said, okay, you know what? We're going to plan this surgery around December 23rd.
Okay.
So I was like, can we
man.
not do it on the 23rd? Like, that's just before Christmas. Like, this sucks. And they're like, yeah, I know, but let's do it before Christmas. And it was all dependent on him. How is he going to react? How is he going to be good?
Right.
All of his stats before he could go into the surgery. And I had been praying to God, and I had a struggled relationship, and for me to stop and pray, I turned around and I said, you know, show me the signs, show me the way. I don't know if you're there. I don't know if you can hear me. I don't know anything. Show me something.
Yeah.
And so that's what he did. So we're day 7 to 8 with him.
Okay. And he's already had one big major surgery already, right?
Yeah.
Okay. And then, so day 7, 8.
He goes in, all of his stats were good.
Okay.
So they planned the surgery for day 9. And I said, okay. And Dr. Nozal said, you're not going to like these odds. He goes, there's a 30% chance of these. Oh. And I said, okay. And I said, that's it. I said, we're getting him baptized. And getting him, so they have, so Chio takes donated bridesmaids, not bridesmaids, but wedding dresses.
Wedding dresses, and then made them into little baptism or blessing dresses or blessing outfits.
Yes.
Awesome.
So that's what they did. They asked us to pick one out, and I picked one out, and unfortunately I don't have it anymore. But I had it, and I kept it close to me. That was his little dress. That was his baptism gown, and I loved it. And they actually do dresses for both female and male.
Yeah, it's just easier for wires and stuff, I think, right?
Yes, exactly. So we go in for the surgery just before, so we get him blessed, and then 2 hours later, 2 hours to the next day, he's back in the operating room.
Okay, and what were they doing at that particular operation?
So they were doing his getting all this fluid off of his brain to get a better idea of how much brain capacity he really had, because a lot of the fluid was blocking that. And so we were hopeful, but we were on edge still, and we were sitting there going, okay, this is the day where it makes it or breaks it. This is the day where we know which path he's going to go on. And so that was the worst, I think, for me, knowing that he was going into this and we didn't know.
And the odds are not good, like you said.
They're not. And so the same plan was as before the first surgery. If anything looked like it was going downhill, they were just going to bring us to the operating room. So we stayed close by. But I didn't realize is how close the operating room was to the NICU. And so it was, to us, it just seemed like so far in the back, but it was actually it was the center block of the PICU, in the PICU area. Yeah, so I was like, okay, we're ready, we're waiting, and again, Dr. Nozal, he's like, I want to say one last prayer. And so the pastor was still there, the minister, priest, whatever you want to call him, was still there, and he led us in a prayer, and he prayed for Xavier and for our family and everything like that. And his nurse was part of that. And we always made sure that if he had this major movement or anything, we were praying for his safekeeping.
Yeah.
So, so they got ready to move him. And as they were ready to move him, because they can't take the full ventilator with them at one point, they have to wait for the respiratory nurse to kind of be there to move it with them.
Okay.
They need another bagging. And the NICU bagging masks are so different than what you see in movies and stuff.
Yeah.
It's green, and at the end you have to keep your thumb so you can like press and move your thumb, and it's very complicated.
Okay. Yeah.
And they wanted to make sure that he was going to be good on this, so they took him off of the one machine to test this bag. And when they did that, he did not like it. He threw, like we say, he threw the worst temper tantrum. He started desatting, he started going everywhere. So the respiratory nurse is like, well, we're not going to do this method. We're going to go with you. We have enough resources on here to keep him breathing if he needs. So I asked the respiratory nurse, I said, is it going to be harmful to maybe for this move to increase his oxygen just a little bit? And she goes, no, it's not actually. That's a great idea. Thanks for being part of his team. So I said, let's do that then. Let's give him the best chance without stressing him out.
Yep.
And
even more before.
Yeah. And so they moved him to one of those like little incubators for preemies that has the top on them. So I won't even say they're that little, but they're like the ones you see when you're giving vaginal birth, but in the NICU, they have the top sitting way up. So we brought that down, and I said, let's leave that a little bit down for him, and let's cover him with the blankets, because we knew the hospital lights were bothering him. So we put the lid on top, and I put, so the NICU made him a blanket. They make these blankets for kids that come in, and so they put one over top of him, and the specialist team was like, hold on, we're gonna wrap him up in his blanket. Now I had this gray blanket that had a hood on it. And it was very soft and comfortable for him, and it gave him comfort. So, but the hood doesn't fit on him, right? So we used the hood part for his little feet.
Oh, cute.
So the respiratory nurse lifted him up very gently, and we slid that underneath him, and they like put him in his little cocoon, and we made sure he was all good. They let us walk down as far as we could with them. And we did our normal thing. I turned around and I would kiss his brain and give him a bunch of kisses, and we're like, kisses for the brain so that they would work.
Yeah.
And I actually saw that. I have a bunch of shows that I watch from Great Britain. And a mom was in the NICU and her son's kidneys weren't working. And she would always, say, kissing the kidneys so that they would work. So that's what I did. I always gave him that was something. And if I forgot, he would start going all over the place. And I'm like, I'm sorry, bud.
I forgot about that.
Right? So that was a thing that, I would sit there and be like, okay, kiss the brain. So it would work. And we'd give him 2 kisses. And like I said, I was the main one there. So it was mainly me.
That's a lot. Okay, that's a lot. Okay. So how long was he in for that particular surgery?
So it didn't go as planned of what he wanted to do. So because of his hernia surgery, he could not run it from his brain down to his stomach.
Yep. Okay.
So they needed, I believe it was called a gala shunt. I can't be precise, but it's one that the brain absorbs. So they move it so that the brain can kind of absorb it all.
Okay.
And then he had on one of his sides of his head, there was an area that if for whatever reason the pressure was building up too much, that they can aspirate from. It was like a pore.
Yeah, just a place. Okay, that makes total sense. So, okay.
So that's basically, he made it out of that surgery.
He did.
Yes, he did. And Dr. Nazal actually was the one that came to us. And, you see those shows where like the doctor comes out and they take their hat off and they sit beside you and it's always bad news. And he did that. And I'm like, I just started breaking down and crying. I'm like, he's gone, isn't he? He goes, no, he's on his way back to his room. And they're like, oh, I hate you.
Don't do that.
And he goes, I love you too. He goes, but everything went well. He kind of was throwing his temper tantrum as he normally did. And he goes, all that it took was to put his blanket on him.
Oh.
So they allowed, so he was having, it was like a security blanket for him,
Yeah.
really. So and this is before they even started operating, that he kind of threw his temper tantrum. And so they put it on top of him, underneath all the sterile stuff. And so as soon as that happened, he said he was fine. He calmed right down. And I said, okay. I said, that's my son for you. He knows what he wants. And
he's going to tell you.
Yeah. So we couldn't hold him. He needed to rest for 3 days. And so I was like, okay, we're going to do that. We're going to let him rest. I actually let him rest for, I think it was like, is it day 7, day 8, 9? He had surgery. So probably day 11, 12 was when I held him again.
Okay.
Christmas Eve, he was still, I got to hold him on Christmas morning.
Okay.
Which worked out perfectly.
Okay.
But I stayed up until 2:00 on Christmas morning. So I stayed up all Christmas Eve into Christmas morning. And I don't know how many pieces of paper I cut out, but I cut out so many pieces of paper in triangle form. And I made a Christmas tree out of all these green triangles on his wall.
Uh-huh.
And that was on his wall for Christmas morning. I made a star. I made the trunk of the tree. And I went out and I got like little garland to put on there, and like little fairy lights. And
that's awesome. And that's what you got to do when you're in the hospital over Christmas. Like, yeah.
Christmas can't stop.
Yep.
You know, you can't tell Christmas, hey, hold up, my kid's in the hospital.
Yep, you can't do that.
No, so I was like, okay, this is another hurdle. You know, we'll get through this. We'll make it. And things were looking pretty good for him. He started to show more signs of breathing over his tube.
Oh, okay.
So he was showing more signs of like, hey, I can breathe a little bit better.
Yeah.
And so with that, like they test before they rip out that tube. They test by seeing if they can put him on CPAP, and see how he does with that. So it's essentially the same, but they leave the tube in. They disconnect it from his actual breathing tube that goes into his lungs. And the CPAP just sits on his nose.
Okay.
Yeah. And so they put that on and they connect the ventilator back because there's a CPAP option. And they watched him for a good like 5 minutes just to see. And he was doing fine on CPAP. Okay. Absolutely fine on CPAP. So we made the decision. I said, look, he's just had brain surgery. We don't know what's going to be the complication. I said, do we take it off now and then have to re-intubate him because he has a complication that has to be re-intubated?
Yeah.
Or do we wait the extra day and put him on CPAP the day after Christmas? And ideally, that's what we chose. Okay. We said, let's leave him on the ventilator until after Christmas.
Just in case.
Yeah, I didn't want to hatch my chickens. And so that's what we did. So we got Christmas morning with him. I had picked out a pair of pajamas because he was able to wear clothes now, which was awesome.
Yeah.
So we picked out a pair of pajamas for him. And it was red and white striped, and all my kids except for Daniel, well, all my kids after. So yeah, Kaylee, my daughter Kaylee wore them. Daniel was too big to wear them, but they all wore them.
That is awesome. What a cute way to tie your kids together.
Yeah. So, so it was great. We left them on the side. We were like, hey, if you can't get them into them, like, that's fine. And they were able to he was kind of like having some issues with his temperature that day. And I said, let's just put him on my lap. Let's not, he just had surgery. Maybe he's just readjusting and acclimatizing again
Yeah.
because all that fluid's off. So we put it on top of him. And it was so cute. I have a picture of that one. And so I got to spend Christmas. St. Mary's came by because I was still with them technically. And they turned around and they said, Merry Christmas, Louise and Xavier. So, yeah, so they came in, and shelters don't normally give you a lot for, for Christmas. They don't have that
Yeah.
extra money.
Yes.
So I turned around and was only expecting something small, and they came in, and there was, oh my gosh, I think there was 20 bags, like 20 giant bags. And then there was presents for Xavier and as a family, and just little things that just you hold near and dear to your heart.
Yeah. Because nobody is loving being in the hospital or in the Ronald McDonald house over Christmas. Like, let's be honest, that's just not exactly where you want to be. And so that is
No,
really kind of whoever those people were that brought those gifts in. That's really nice.
yeah, and that's what like makes that's when you see your community that
Yeah.
you've kind of had throughout your pregnancy come together.
Yeah.
Like, and I take Christmas now to a whole new level. I celebrate Christmas and I don't let anybody miss it because I never got to spend the next Christmas with him. But I always say he's here.
Yeah.
I get a family ornament every year, and he's on there.
And he's on there.
He's on there. He's still part of our family. He's
Yep.
on there. So, with that being said, like, you don't know when the last day is going to be.
Yeah.
You don't.
And that's for
Uh,
everybody.
yeah, exactly. It's for everybody. You don't know. I could go to bed tonight, and my husband can find me
Yeah.
passed out and dead in my
Yeah.
bed. And you know what? We can't think about next month, next year, you have to take it day by day. And sometimes we do plan it where we're like, oh, in a month we're doing this. We're already like, well, things change, they change. And so that's where it came together that I knew that I was, no matter what, I had support around me. And the Ronald McDonald House actually turned around and looked at us and said, "Oh, by the way, can you be home by like 11 o'clock because we have something special?" And I said, "Sure, I can manage that." And I had some support with us. I'm still in touch with one of them,
That's
and
great.
so I had her, and she came and sat with Xavier while I went back because I wasn't sure what was happening. All I cared about was I want to spend Christmas with my son. And so, anyways, I went back, and it was the Navy Marines that came into the Ronald McDonald home and
Oh.
purchased toys,
Oh,
5 toys per child,
that's awesome.
and a gift for their mother. And it was also obviously
Yeah, based
age.
on how old the kid was and everything. Yeah.
Yeah, so Xavier got this big baby shark blanket. And I was like, oh, okay. And they knew that he probably, didn't have a lot going on mentally. He's probably going to be delayed in some aspects. And so they got him like some specific toys that were made for, incubators and stuff like that
Oh,
for
yeah.
so they got him a couple of those, and then they got me I can't remember now. They got me something that I can like they got me a camera. Got me a
Mm.
little digital camera,
Oh,
the old
good.
fashioned ones.
Yep, but it's It's really handy to have.
Yeah. And so, um, yeah, so I got that. And when I came back up to his floor, it was kind of funny because when I came back up, there was the Scentsy bears. And I'm not sure if anybody knows what Scentsy is. It's that, like, they're the candle
The
wax
candle.
people.
Okay, yes, okay.
Yeah,
But I don't know what a
they
Scentsy bear is. Is that just
so it's from the same company, and
okay?
you can get these little sachet packs or
Yeah,
whatever that you can put in the back of these bears that have like a scent to them.
awesome. Okay.
So they got a couple of those for us. And instead of giving us the scent, they created like a bag of the weight of your child. So
Yeah.
they created one for him because he had a bad habit of pulling his tubes out,
Okay.
or like he had a feeding tube at that point. So he would pull his feeding tube out, pull his IVs out.
He's like,
Like
I
he,
don't like this at all.
no, exactly. And so because of that, it's hard to get an IV back in
Yeah,
babies
a
these
little baby.
small. So he pulled it out, and they finally said enough is enough, and they've had to put a PIC line in.
They did. Yeah.
Yeah. So they had to put a PIC line in, but we had to figure out the placement because they wanted to put it right underneath his armpit, but he could grab that.
So
Um,
easily. I was like, that's weird. Okay.
yeah. So they had to put it on top of his arm because if he was to reach over, he couldn't do that right away.
Yeah.
So we were like, okay, great. And they were able to take his blood oxygen that IV to monitor like his carbon dioxide and oxygen and blood pressure and stuff like that. They took that IV out, and he just got a regular blood pressure cuff after
Oh,
that.
okay.
Did not like that one bit.
I'm sure they're not comfortable.
No. And at one point they went to do his, because it was set to go off every so often. And the one time I had just come in and I'm like, what does that sound? And the nurse is like, yeah, what is that sound? And so she's over looking at all of his machines and everything. And the monitor's going off saying that there's no blood pressure detected, but he's breathing fine. And I'm like, what's going on? Maybe something going faulty, right?
Yeah.
And come to find out that that clip that typically pushes in, he had grabbed a hold of it with his extra thumb and his hand and pulled it. And I tell you, this kid did not like things on him. He
Yeah.
did not.
That is so funny.
Yeah, he got his hands, I remember at one time, underneath all those like stickies that are on your chest, got his hand underneath that and somehow pulled that out. Um,
He did not. That's so funny. That's
he and they're just little wires, right, connected to a little housing box. And for whatever reason, it was not one of our regular nurses, so she put it close, that box
and didn't
close.
realize. Okay.
Yeah, I
That's what
didn't realize.
happens.
And it was on his file that he liked to pull these stunts with all of his wires.
So Louise, so he's had 2 surgeries so far and doing okay, it looks like. But then I know that he has a couple additional. Is that right? So can you tell us about those ones?
So we're at day 12, day 13, he starts taking it downhill again, like, and a
Oh,
significant downhill. And we were not sure what was going on. Um, they had to give him a blood transfusion.
they did.
Uh,
Okay.
yeah, because they didn't know where he was bleeding. He had more CAT scans, more ultrasounds, more x rays to try to figure out where this was coming from. Once he got the blood transfusion, he was fine.
He's feeling
Everything
better.
was,
Okay.
yeah. He still was desatting a lot. And that's when, instead of spinning all the time, like I would go home at back to the Ronald McDonald house because he was doing so good. It got to the point where I was at the hospital 24/7, 7 days of the week because it got that bad. We didn't know what was going on. He's off of the ventilator. There was talk about putting him back on. I said, just give him some time, wait another hour.
See,
Wait even 24 hours and see. His breathing was better. It was okay to stay on the CPAP, and they moved him to BPAP, CPAP and BPAP. So he was switched in between both, and one just gives him a lot more oxygen than the other. So they were kind of switching back and forth. And I think it was BPAP that they kept him on because it was giving the most oxygen through his nose. And that's just basically high flow air before you get onto more down the road to be off of that. And so Dr. Nazal came in and said, we have to have a group meeting, but not with Xavier. And you never want to hear that as a parent. You never want to be away from your child.
Yeah.
And so, after before his brain surgery, we had a program called Roger Nielsen's House, and I'm not sure if a lot of people are familiar with it.
Yeah.
So Roger Nielsen House is actually from he was a hockey player, Ottawa Senators, Roger Nielsen. And so they had founded this program for moms who are dealing with children who are not going to make it, children that need extra care, and to help their parents, get some respite for them, give them counseling. They had doctors on staff, nurses on staff, just to help whatever which way they needed.
That's great.
Yeah, and so we were looking hopeful because he was doing, like I said, doing great after his brain surgery. So we thought, you know what, let's look at what this option of respite and special needs are we going to be looking at. And so they helped us navigate that. So he, like I said, he went downhill. And so Roger Nielsen was called back in, and they turned around and said, I don't know how much longer you're going to have with him. He's not doing good. He's fine for right now. They said, you need to make a decision right now. Do you want to put a DNR on him? He goes, because here's the thing. He even said, if this was my child, I'd put a DNR. He goes, because right now, it'll harm him more than anything. It'll put him in more pain if I didn't do this, if this was my child. Yeah. And I said, do I have time to think about this? Because, you don't want to think about doing that and being like, what happens,
Yeah.
So I thought about it. His father was like, no, I don't want that. That's not happening, He was still in kind of, he's not going to die. He's not going to die. He's going to be fine. He's going to live. And, trying to tell somebody who's addicted to drugs
that,
this is not happening.
Yeah.
This does not look good. This is the worst he's been since he's been in hospital. And so with that being said, I turned around and made the ultimate decision because I did not want to leave it up to somebody who was back in their addiction and not clear-minded.
Yes, exactly.
So I made the decision. I said, call your mom, call your aunt. I said, get them to come down, come see Xavier. I said, I'm making the decision. I'm signing a DNR. I said, this is not fair to our son. This is not fair to him. He's fought long and hard, and we need to make that decision on what is going to happen to him. And so he straightened back out. And I should say they moved him from where he was into the isolation room, which just gave us more privacy. And we were both able to be there and stay the night with him. So it just gave us a lot more privacy for us and our family. And so, and at the time I had called her because I couldn't trust her. And I said, I don't know what's going to happen. And I will mention she was like a mom at that time to me. And so I called her up and I said, Mom, I don't know what's going to happen, but I want you to come down and meet your grandson before anything.
Oh.
So the hospital and they reached out to Children's Aid because they usually have a lot more funding. And they got her a two-way ticket from Winnipeg down to Ottawa and back.
Oh, that is great. That's great.
Yeah. Yeah. So, and her two kids came down to see him and spend some time with him. And my plan was never to have family around when he passed. If he passed, I wanted to be able to hold him and spend that time with him.
Yeah. Just you guys. Yeah. Okay.
Yeah. And so we decided that if it got really bad, we were going to, move to Roger Nielsen's house and do their end of life care program. And that's just basically doing what we wish to do with our child before passing. And everything that we wanted to do that we could not do as a parent, giving him a bath,
Yeah.
Celebrating his birthday, whatever that may be. And so we had family come in and we were going to go over to Roger Nilsson's for January 10th because that was his original due date. And we said, okay, that'll be great. So family came in, saw over 2 days. And the day after family left, let's say a day or two after, it was on December 30th. So at this point, we've had 19 days with him, and which is more than any parent could ask for.
Yeah.
More than anything. And it took a real bad downhill. They were having to use extra oxygen on him. He was not calming down. He was in severe pain. And we had found out prior to my family coming down, he had no brain. He had the brain of a 20, if you were to give birth to a 28-week baby.
Oh.
And no brain. He could not breathe for himself. I shouldn't say he couldn't. He could a little bit. He could not suck anything like a soother or anything.
Yeah.
There was this. It was like somebody decapitated him because that message to go down to the brain to say, "Hey, breathe," was not there.
It was okay.
To drink was not there. He had no quality of life.
Yeah.
And that's when we called all of their family down. And that's when I really broke down because it was like, hey, bud, we've had 19 days. 19 days, and I'm not upset with you. You fought in love, fought hard. And, don't worry about mommy. Mommy will be here. Mommy's going to be okay. I kept telling him that, and I kept saying, if that's what you need to do is leave now, I'm not going to be upset with you. And so it came to the point where he was really having trouble. I remember that, leading up to the 30th, those troubled days were hard for him. I remember, staying up all night. And at this point, I stopped pumping because what's the point? And so, so I stopped pumping a week before. And it was just, I was preparing for the end. And I knew that I had to prepare because he was only hanging on for me.
Yeah.
He was trying to be my strong support. And I kept telling him, like, it's okay, Mommy's not mad at you. You fought hard. I love the time that I've gotten with you. if you need to go, it's okay. Bobby will hold you no matter what. And I remember, like, it was a blizzard for those last couple days. And on the 29th, going into the 30th, I remember holding him and just giving him all the love and cuddles and everything. And I remember that. And that all this blizzard that had happened, it just came out to a beautiful blue sky. And I turned around and I said, call Roger Nielsen. We need to do this now. Because he's not going to make it another day. That afternoon, we did his naming ceremony because of him being Indigenous. And he was given the name Hawk. And I knew that before. And it just made more sense now. And that afternoon, we moved over to Roger Nelson's house about 12:30, 1 o'clock. And I got to hold them. And they always do it as if you're leaving the hospital with your child. And because it's connected to CHEO as well, there's a path that you can take to get to Roger Nielsen. So I got to sit in the wheelchair with him and holding him while the doctor for them kept him out of breathing and kept him breathing. And when we got to Roger Nielsen's house, they already knew that we wanted to celebrate his birthday and that I wanted to bath him because I thought to. So while he was still on oxygen, we agreed to keep him on oxygen until about 2:30. And then after that, they'll let him if he passes. And we were told that it could take an hour, could take 20 minutes, it could take 3 days. Good to whatever. And I just kept telling him the whole way there, it's okay. Mommy's not mad at you. You're still Mommy's little boy. And I never saw his eyes until that day. So when I was telling him that, he just opened his eyes. And I got the smallest smile out of his face. And so when we got to Roger Nielsen's, we sang him happy birthday. And I got to bath him. And I have this little nightgown. And I put him in that because his older brother wore that. His older sister wore that. He got to wear that. And I was like, nobody else is going to wear this until I feel ready to, or that you tell Mommy. So my daughter Kaylee never wore it. My son Daniel did. And so I got to bath him, and they have a photographer that comes in that they pay for. And so they turned around and they paid for the photography to come in and take pictures of him with me bathing him, and just holding him. And I got to hold him, and he passed away at 3:06 on the 30th of December. I had 19 days with him. Roger Nielsen helped so much because they preserved their life and the memory of them. I have his handprints and his footprints in cement from them.
Oh, yeah.
They got his extra digit because
They did.
wanted to remove it, and I never let them.
Yeah.
So they got his extra digit, and so that's imprinted in it. And then he did a catcher's hand for his dad because his dad loved baseball too.
Oh.
And his feet were always the smallest. Like it was the smallest on him, like most disproportionate body type. And I sat there and I held him, and we got 24 hours with him.
You did.
And so we had to choose. We had to wait for another doctor to come in to pronounce him again and agree with the that he passed. And so I think the best part was that the doctor that was there knew us very well, and I got to listen to his heart until it stopped beating.
You did.
So I knew before I could I noticed it stopped because he looked at me again and he smiled and he held my hand. And I said, it's okay. And that was his last breath. And I got to stay with him for 24 hours, and I didn't really sleep that 24 hours.
Yeah.
They brought us up dinner, and I said, I'm not hungry. I couldn't eat. All they did was want to hold him. And they had this rocking chair in the corner, and I just sat with him the whole thing. I didn't want to let him go because it was the first time that I was able to hold him without any wires or tubes.
Yeah.
And so we had to choose a funeral home, and they were, do you want him cremated? Do you want this? Do you want that? And I'm like, I just lost my kid. You're asking me these questions, and I don't know. And so, Roger Nielsen said you have until 3 the next day to figure this out. And I finally made a decision, and I chose Beechwood. It's in Ottawa. And so I chose them, and I chose to get him cremated. Because to me, I was like, I just want to bring him everywhere. And if I have to bury him, I'm going to feel like I'm leaving him behind.
Yeah.
I wasn't sure how I was going to pay for anything. And that's when Ontario Works is like, we'll pay for it. And they paid for his funeral service and his cremation fee.
Oh.
And we just had a small little ceremony. But no, Roger Nielsen really helped because they were able to, give us the respect after a child passes. They have this little angel in the corridor that they light up just to, to tell everybody, hey, there's a child that's passed. We're passing. And then they do the walk of life for them. And the one song that I sang to him the day we went to Roger Nielsen's is Symphony by Claire Bandit.
Oh, I haven't heard that one.
Yeah, so if you just type in Symphony, you'll see it. It's a beautiful song, and it talks about, like, even when you're gone, your heartbeat will still live on. And I have trouble listening to that one still to this day. Because that was his song that I sang to him.
Yeah.
And so his walk of life, we did that one, and then the Coldplay, I think it was called When You're Gone. And so we had everybody with candles waiting for him, and we sang that.
Oh.
And they don't tell you that when the funeral home picks your child up, of how small the box that they put them in. And I wasn't prepared for that. And They literally created a carrying casket for him that looked like a crib.
Yeah.
Like a cradle, but had a lid on top. And I turned around and I was like, he never liked the dark. Like, don't put him in the dark. And they were so nice because they didn't. They like the top sideways on him.
Oh, good.
They asked if he had a favorite blanket, and they said yes, he did. So they put that on top of him. And they even turn around and they say, Mr. Xavier, you'll never be put in the dark. And so when he went into the funeral home, they made sure he wasn't put in the dark. And so I got to go to the funeral home the next day after he left and make every arrangement possible. And Beechwood does something better than any other funeral home that we saw, that we were looking at picking out for him. And they allow you to actually, with a family member, especially with a child, they have a child's area in the mortuary, the morgue, I should say, and it's where they put all the babies and they don't put them in the dark. It's like a clear shield on them, so that way the light's still there for them, but it's dim. And they encourage the moms to hold their children.
Good.
So they literally were, when we're going through this all, they were like, "Do you want to see your son?" And I was like, "Yes." And so they brought him up, and I got to sit with him and rock with him in this like little room that they have for moms, and read them a story, because they always have books there and they bring books up for them.
That's awesome.
And so, and then when we wanted to put him back, put him down for bed, I do the same thing, and I turn around and look at him, and I turn around and kiss his bride, and I said, "Just to make sure it works, mommy." And so, yeah, so we had asked before he was cremated to put him in his sleeper. We got him for the gender reveal. And so we put him in there, and I'd asked, I said, before you cremate him, we see him one last time. And they said, yeah. And so we went, and again, his dad disappeared. When I needed him the most, his dad disappeared again. And so I sat there with him for 2.5 hours. And again, Beechwood is so awesome. And with parents, they allow them to pick out his casket that they're gonna cremate him in.
Yeah.
And I turned around and I said, "I don't know how anybody can do that." And they were like, "We understand the loss of a child. Like, we understand it." And so I turned around and I said, I don't know what to do. I don't know what to pick for him. And I said, "I can't do this." And they cremated him the staff there found out that he was a Montreal Habs. They colored a white box in the colors.
Oh, that is so sweet.
So, and then they called me when they said, "Okay, we're cremating him now." And then they called me and they said, he went very peacefully. And I was just like, I couldn't be upset with him. And I remember yelling at one time, I just yelled at God and I said, "Why the hell did you give me this kid to break my heart? He was so perfectly created and you took him from me." And I remember telling him, I said, "Xavier, I know you're watching over mommy and your mommy's guardian angel, and I'm never mad at you for leaving. I wish I had more time with you." And I've made it. I try to keep his spirit alive every day, and even at the funeral, I was talking about, there's this poem that they gave us, and it just speaks on, you have to take minute by minute, second by second, because minute by minute, second by second is all you could do. And if all you could do is get up and make yourself a coffee, don't put pressure on you to make sure your house is clean and spick and span. And that's what I did for so long. I had to, because I was just lost. I was in so much hurt and I was in so much pain because I couldn't understand why God did this to me. And so it was hard. It was really hard. And, to this day, I still have his urn and I still have his little teddy bear. You want to go grab it for me? I have this little teddy bear, and my mom just fixed him up because he has so many holes on him. And I turned around and I said, "We're going to have to bandage you up like they do at the hospital, Mr. Xavier." And just as I did that, he just turned around and his bear just kind of hugged his urn, and I'm like, okay, that's creepy, but I'm like, that's him saying, yeah, I need you, Mom. And we treat him like he's our kid. You know, if we move and we're like, oh, sorry, Xavier, hold on, we're gonna do this. We talk to him as if that is still him. And like my husband considers him his son. we always we always talk to him. We always talk to him, so he always sits.
Oh, look at that.
He always sits on our, my nightstand or anything, and he sits with his little teddy bear. And this teddy bear was the one. This teddy bear was the one that sat with him in his incubator, for every day, and he still stays with me. We've had to sew him up. I'm yet to wash him. I don't want to wash him, but I know some days he needs a bath. But it's just.
But he's got here baby smell. I mean, he's got Xavier smell, so I would not. I would not.
But yeah, he had some holes on him, and I turned around and I looked at my mom, my foster mom, Heather now. She's my foster mom. And I said, can you take care of your grandson? And she goes, I'll bandage him up. And and I was giving my testimony at our church just back on around Easter. And I said I need him because he's like my security blanket. And so she comes in and she goes, I have Xavier. And I turned around and I said, she's like, I have Xavier. And I said, okay. And she pulls him out of her purse and he was like, squish him. I'm like, how dare you squish your grandson? I'm like, how would you like me to put you in a purse and squish you? So she goes, I'm sorry. But we take him everywhere. And so, yeah. And because he was cremated the way he was, his ashes actually have specks of blue in them.
Yeah.
And so it just reminds me every day, like, how much we've come and how much hurt and pain, but love that we got to spend with him and get to know him and his little characteristics of him. Like,
yeah.
He had his own way of telling us when he didn't like something.
Yep.
And we always made sure, like, his dad, when he was around, would always turn around and act out the hockey games again with him. Nobody tells you what you're going to walk into. Yeah. And that's what I hate about doctors nowadays. They turn around and they're like, oh, everything's going to be fine and everything. And then you just look at what we walk through, and when I hear that nowadays, I'm just like, you don't know. You don't know. I'm like, I was told so many, like, I don't knows. And I'm like, I would rather have 1,000 I don't knows than, oh, he's going to be fine and healthy and he's going to walk out of here.
Yeah. Yeah.
I would go through the pain of losing my son over and over again than having someone telling me that he's going to be fine.
Yeah.
And, and that's what I try to tell parents now. If your kid's in the NICU, as goofy as it may seem to celebrate those little milestones and being your kid's cheerleaders, like, do it.
Yes.
Like, your kid needs that. Your kid feeds off of it. And, if you need to cry and break down, it's okay. Because that's still emotion that your kid needs to feel. Yeah. That's still love.
Yes. Yes.
If you can only change their diaper or help being taught how to do their feeding, once it gets started by the nurse, like, then do so. Get your hands in wherever you can get your hands in. Yeah. Because if you just sat there and if you just sit there and you're like, oh, well, I'm going to let the nurses change his diaper or, do whatever, then you're going to regret it.
Yes. You're going to miss out on those things where you were able to interact with your baby.
And find their quirks, their kinks, their little personalities,
Yeah.
their everything.
Yeah.
And in that 19 days that I saw him, I only saw his eyes twice, and I only got to see a smile twice. But no matter what, I knew that he was still smiling at me every single day. And now I have a big box. And when I mean a big box, I have a giant Rubbermaid toe. And I don't care about losing anything in my house, but I'd rather grab that bin than lose it.
Yeah.
If we have a flood or a tornado,
That's what you're
grabbing
grabbing. Yep.
I'm sorry, my husband, I'm sorry, you can fend for yourself, but that bucket's coming with me.
That's mine.
Yeah. I got over my grief in a different way, and I had to find a way through that pain. And not get rid of that pain, but find that how can I help other moms with that pain?
Yeah.
What can I do to ease the suffering for them? What can I do to give them just a glimmer of hope? I just tell them, I'm like, if you don't want somebody in your home, tell them. I've told so many people, get the hell out of my house. I'm not dealing with this. I can't deal with this.
Yeah.
I'm like, be okay to speak that. If you can't handle it, then don't. If somebody turns around and says that I understand what you're going through, and unless you actually understand, don't say it.
Yeah. Yep.
Because the hurt of a mother losing a child is totally different.
Yeah.
And I think the other thing I seen so much was in the Roger Nielsen's house, there was a child that passed just after my son passed. And one of the moms who had one of their children, they had multiple, she goes, "Oh, I understand what you've gone through." Well, her child was only 6 months old when they passed. The mom just lost their 13-year-old child.
Oh.
That's not you don't understand.
Yeah. We don't need to we don't need to compare grief. It's
and that's what I tried to say. As soon as I snapped and I was angry at this point, but I turned around and I said, "How do you understand what their child's going with? You had 6 months with your child." I said, "I had 19 days. They had 13 years."
Yeah.
I said, "Her pain is different than my pain.
Yeah.
My pain is different than your pain."
Yep.
We all lost children.
Yep.
But we take every day, every birthday, every Christmas, every holiday as a milestone of, hey, I got this with my kid.
Yeah.
I got Christmas.
Yeah.
I didn't get anything else but Christmas. And I keep that near and dear to my heart. How would Xavier like us to celebrate Christmas? What would Xavier want for Christmas?
Yes.
What cake do we do this year for him for his birthday? The stupid little holidays and crap that everybody's like, "Oh, well, it's just another day." Well, when your child lives in a box, or your child's in a ground living in a box, you're gonna celebrate that. Those are the stupid things that you are gonna celebrate because you may not have ever gotten them.
Yep.
And that's, I don't think people understand on how much people take for granted.
Yeah.
Instead of saying, I know what you're going through, I say, I can understand a little bit of what you're going through.
Yeah.
I don't know,
but it's not fully. Yeah.
No. And that's what I try to get everybody, and I urge anybody that's listening to your podcast or your videos, never compare. Never say, I understand what you're going through, because pain is different to everybody, and losing a family member, whether it's a child, an infant, a miscarriage, whatever, is totally different. Instead of saying, I know what you've gone through, you can simply say, I don't know, because I've never been through it, but I understand what you're going through.
Yeah.
Understanding is better saying than saying, I know what you're going through.
Yeah. I have a little glimmer of what what it is. Because, yes, I can't compare. Yeah, my son never took a breath. Yeah, it's different than yours. And that's okay. That's okay.
Exactly. Every mom needs to know it's okay. It's not their fault. Whether you believe in a higher power or God or anything or a creator, they were made by that creator for you. And that creator had already planned what their life was going to be.
Yeah.
And what that was going to look like. And it may only be that you only got to hear their heartbeat once or twice before they were even, before you had a chance to prepare a nursery or get to know your child more. But at least you got to have that sense of my child's there.
Yeah.
I got to know my child for a little bit. But again, it's the same loss, the same feeling of what did I do wrong? What could I have done better? No matter how much you say, what can I do? Or what if, it was never your plan or your fault or any what ifs you can come up with. It was creator. It was that person that said, you're going to have a child. And it was their plan to only give you so long.
Yeah.
And whether, I urge parents to understand that, anybody that goes through infant loss or miscarriages or anything, anything like that, like walk a mile in a mom's shoes, like a mom that, take that time and walk a mile in the shoes of a parent that has suffered loss of any kind. It is different when you have 6 months, a year more.
Yeah.
When you only have an hour, 20 minutes, half an hour, the first sound of a heartbeat, that pain that parent is going through is way more than if your mom or dad just got hit by a transport. You got to spend that life with your parents a lot longer than mom hearing their child's heartbeat for the first time or the second time, and then it's gone.
Yeah. So Louise, thank you so much for sharing your sweet Xavier with us. And you've given us some amazing words of advice as well, because I think we need to hear those things. Like, I talk about those things a lot, and I'm like, I think it's hard to sum up how hard this is, and how we don't need to compare, and how it's just crummy in general. Like,
I think the other advice I would give anybody is whoever is your support team that's around you that time, bringing something for that mom to eat, or just even a treat or something, is better, is great. Don't overwhelm them. Don't be like, let me come over. Turn around and call them up or text them and say, hey, are you up for company? If not, how about I drop you off some groceries, or how about I drop you off a meal for you? And, even if it's just a single mom or a mom with a family or whatever, that means a lot. Even just saying, hey, I know you're not doing well. How about I bring you supper, take care of the kids, go take a shower, and I'll clean the house for you.
Yeah.
Those little things people forget and they overlook.
Yep, completely. Completely, because their other things need to continue on, and you need to eat, you need to have clean clothes and a clean house, and you just have no energy when you're mourning, when there's grief. And so I love that. And anything. And one of the things I want to point out that you said that I liked was, like, you text somebody and says, would you like company? And that gives them an out. They can say yes or no, but it also opens up like it's a yes or no, and I'm happy to be the company or not the company and just bring you over a treat. Like I just love how there was some permission and asking and giving them an option and not just like let me know if I can do anything for you, right? That one's a hard one for me, so
Yeah.
it's
And
too
I think
open-ended.
I'm sorry, but no matter how much you want to be there for that person, showing up with a bottle of wine or some chocolate ice cream or whatever will help them. They may not want to, and then they're going to feel like they're obligated because
Yeah.
you're standing there. And also, like, when you're texting them, hey, do you want some company? Do you want this? Do you want that? Making sure you also add there, it's okay to say no.
Yep. Yep. Yep.
Because most people would be like, oh, now I've got to have them over. It's okay to say no. It's okay to hibernate.
Yeah, it is. And I think that that is huge, like what you just said, giving the permission to not see people too, because people, it's overwhelming. And I remember feeling so disoriented and also kind of scared of just interacting with people. I honestly did not know how to interact with people after my loss. And so, hibernating is a great way of putting it. Like I just didn't want to talk to anybody. So, but
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
yeah,
Just stay strong, all those moms out there that, every second counts, and whether it's 10 minutes, an hour, two heartbeats, one heartbeat, it's still your child. And you may not know their gender, you may know their gender, whatever. Give them a name.
yeah, yeah.
Give them a name. They're a human being. They're your child. They deserve a name.
Yeah. Beautiful. Louise, thank you so much for your time today. That was a beautiful story. I feel like I know Xavier. He sounds feisty and and active. He sounded so active, and I just I just love that about him. And just in closing, I wanted to ask you if you wanted to share any last things about Xavier that we may have missed in our conversation.
The only thing I think I missed was with his funeral, a balloon release. We got
Oh,
his
yes.
favorite colors. We got his favorite colors now. He also liked the crinkle of like those Christmas bows.
Yes.
So we had them lined up on his side of his crib where he could reach them,
Oh my
so he could
gosh.
hear that crinkle.
That is so
Um,
cute.
right. So I have all of his bows from his
From it.
incubators.
Oh,
I still have all of that. I'll have to send photos of everything. Yeah, I've gotten all of that. And his favorite color was blue, red, white, orange. Those were his favorite colors, and yellow. He looked great in yellow. And we set off blue balloons, and we had everybody write a little message
yeah.
um, for him before sending it off, which was, I was like, fantastic. And the thing I also say about NICU moms, get their nurses. We had like Christmas bulbs that we had drawn, like printed out. And on the day before, when we knew everything was going on, we went to all of his nurses that had him or knew him or any part of him. And on the bulbs, they wrote little
Oh,
messages for about
oh,
him. Just do something like that. Those little messages, when you're down and out, will bring you so much joy when you're having a hard time. I sometimes go to it around his birthday and I'll read them again and I'll pull everything out. And it's
that's
just
amazing.
like, it brings me joy. It brings us joy. So yeah, actually, I'll show you a picture of his. I have his feet and
Oh,
hands.
his.
Yeah, I'll have to show you that before we go because they're upstairs, babe. He's going down to the basement because I moved them upstairs too.
Oh,
But yeah, those moments, take that opportunity. Take those little goofy photos. Take the photos that may seem silly to everybody and be like, why did you do that? And what's the purpose behind that? Well, there's no purpose. Why do I have to give you a purpose?
yep, exactly. It's not necessary. You can just
It's
do it. You could just do it.
exactly. And you don't have to be like, oh, well, what would people think? I don't care what people think.
Yep,
I
exactly.
really don't care and like I was reading stories to Xavier, and I would like act out like, oh, he was big and strong, and the nurses would look at me and like, oh, leave me alone. And so these is what they have made at Roger Nielsen's for.
Look, those are so beautiful. Those are so beautiful. Oh my gosh, and there's his little extra thumb. Look how cute that is. I can't believe that. That's so cute.
So they did the silicone mold first.
Yeah.
And then they did
And then
this.
that's awesome.
Until I have a permanent like home where I can lay it in the ground. It stays with me, and I
that's
carried
great.
that. Yeah, and Roger Nielsen was so nice and made sure that his name was on his box, and it wasn't supposed to be done for 3 weeks. But they managed to get it done. They poured a silicone and they cast it and everything.
That
and
is so awesome.
It was ready for his funeral. It was like 4 days later.
They are so nice.
Right. So, but yeah, it's a joy to be able to tell moms that it's okay.
Yeah.
It's okay.
Okay.
And just because I didn't show enough, you don't show enough emotion, it's fine.
Yeah.
It's fine. Cry at the good bits that are the most important. Yeah. Smile at the rest of him. Yeah. Find those little quirks and kinks about your child. And on your hardest day, they will bring you joy.
That is beautiful. I'm so glad that you ended with that, because that just summed it up so beautifully. Thank you so much for sharing, Xavier, with us. That was beautiful, and I'm glad I got to see all those fun things about him as well. I just think that is awesome. So thank you again, Louise.
No problem. Anytime.